name is Andre Diaz. I am here to present Unit 13, Body Homeostasis, the biology of addiction. I am planning on presenting on how the importance of drug education and also the importance of understanding the biology of addiction when it comes to preventing and understanding how to deal with it. I chose this topic because I thought that it would be interesting to understand how addiction and drugs had effect on the brain. I also believe it's very beneficial and important that we also are educated on drugs and that we all have a truthful scientific understanding on how drugs work and which can help in battling addiction, and it can help anyone who's struggling or help anyone else who is struggling with addiction. I also have a big personal connection with this because many people in my family have struggled through addiction and have even died because of addiction. And I think I guess have a personal connection and wanting to know how addiction works and understanding how drugs can affect your brain. This video will consist of 5 different questions I have chosen, this being: what are the stages of addiction? How does co-occurring mental disorder affect the biology of addiction? Long-term effects of addiction on the structural integrity of the brain. What are some behavioral interventions you can use to prevent addiction? And how has understanding the biology of addiction helped us learn new strategies to help deal with it? The first stage of addiction is initial use and abuse. This is caused when there is either peer pressure or some mental disorder may lead up to the need for drug use. The reason why both abuse and the second stage, abuse and initial use, are usually intertwined together is because in certain cases with drugs, some drugs on first use are considered harmful, making it an abuse of a drug. So both are intertwined. But overall, this is where you first start using a drug and it starts becoming a harmful substance for you. Then there is tolerance. This is when your body becomes tolerant to the pleasurable effects that come from the drug. This means you'll be intolerant to any effect that happens on the brain, meaning you will require a higher dosage than the initial use, which leads up to a dependence on it, where you would begin to be dependent on and reliant on the high and pleasurable effects that's given off from the drug, where you become completely dependent on it for daily function, where you would lead into the 5th stage, addiction, where that would begin to rewire your brain to automatically function only on that substance and constantly have to have that substance even function on a daily basis. It will make you have the constant compulsion to use it and constant compulsion to even do it through rewiring your brain and its cognitive function, leading to relapse, which is the final 6th stage, but can kind of not necessarily, I don't necessarily think it's this stage, but it is where even if you try to stop, you will experience the need and impulsion to use the substance, no matter what, and this stage can make it extremely difficult to quit using a drug that you are addicted to or any illicit substance that can be addictive. Co-occurring disorder is when substance abuse disorder and another mental disorder is combined together and they happen simultaneously. These have usually common combinations: alcohol and depression, anxiety and marijuana, and schizophrenia and meth. These combinations usually have to be treated and analyzed and determined at both at the same time, so it can be difficult to have to deal with treatment at the same time. The cause and solution can be very much connected to both disorders. Sometimes the mental disorder causes a person to go down a route of addiction, or the addiction itself causes a mental disorder, or sometimes just both happen simultaneously. But overall, it can vary to the addiction to the person. Again, most of my information has come from American Addiction Centers and the National Library of Medicine. These are going to be many of my common sources throughout the video. This illustration on my whiteboard is a illustration of the reward system of the brain. This consists of the VTA, the pathway, and all the frontal lobe and its cognitive functions. This whole mechanism has been designed to give motivation for survival mechanisms. This consists of things like eating, sleeping, enjoying yourself, not dying, reproducing. Anything that's considered a survival mechanism that's required, the dopamine will be sent from the VTA throughout the frontal lobe where behavioral actions are controlled, giving a signal to the brain to basically be drawn to the activities that are more likely to produce a dopamine reaction. Though the problem with drugs is that drugs give a really, really high level of dopamine produced, more than just natural highs you would usually get by doing the things it was naturally intended for. For example, if you would just say you snorted cocaine, you would get a far, far more heavier reaction than you would do for anything like eating, sleeping, or even having sex. Meaning your brain is thinking, oh, I'm surviving. This is the best way of survival for me. So logically, your brain is going to be functioning in a way where it relies on cocaine or any illicit substance you are using. By the way, I got my information for this by rehabcenter.net. You're probably wondering, how can I get out of addiction? How can I intervene in whatever behavior I am doing that leads me to relapse, that leads me to be compelled to use whatever illicit substance that I'm using in my addiction? Well, one main method is cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a therapy known for subtracting thoughts and emotions and how they lead up to moods and how they can be affected by actions. This is very helpful in many cognitive behavioral disorders, including substance abuse disorder and several others. This also is very useful because cognitive behavioral therapy is also very malleable in its practice. It can be very easily personalized to a certain patient depending on the needed treatment and the current circumstances of their addiction and whatever disorder it may be co-occurring with. So this all information has been cited from American Addiction Centers and the Clinical Practice Guidelines for the Treatment of Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. Cognitive behavioral therapy is also known to be even more efficient than solutions known as like medications to stop down cravings, even being effective in many other disorders known as anxiety disorder, depression, and several other things that have to do with the cognitive behavior. Overall, drug education is very important when it comes to battling the problem of addiction and the drug epidemic in America, and overall preventing drug accidents, preventing harmful consequences of using drugs, preventing the harmful consequences of addiction. All of it revolves around how well we educate ourselves and others and our community as a whole on how we're supposed to deal with this, how we deal with it safely, and how well we're able to understand it. And overall, it's most important that you stay safe, especially when it comes to using illicit substances. There's even very good evidence for stuff like this. According to Health Life Recovery, they showed that many drug education programs had very good, very successful outlooks when it came to having really good scientific backing. So there is very much a very need for a biological and scientific understanding when it comes to this topic. It even showed that these drug educational programs even showed through studies have shown that they were able to decline rates of vaping, smoking, and marijuana use, and primarily in schools. Meaning it's also important again to educate people, the young and overall schools and students about drug education. Overall, drug education is important. It's important that we also understand how our body works and how addiction works on a biological level. That is all. Goodbye.